All right, hi everyone. Welcome to our session today. We will kick off by sharing our name, organization, and role, where you are located at the moment, and if you were previously a part of the Youth Power Learning COP, let us know which one. And I'll give everyone a moment to mute themselves, to settle down, and to do that. Go ahead. And as we continue on, please feel free to read through the responses in the chat box to get to know the other participants. First, we have Christy Scott, Director of YP2LE, who will welcome us. Christy, I'll hand it over to you to introduce and welcome us.
Great. I'm super excited. I'm watching all the names scroll on the right. So really great to see such great participation this morning. We're really looking forward to this relaunch and refresh of the COPs. And I'm really excited to be part of this. I was not part of any COP before. I am brand new to Making Sense. It's been about 4 months now. I'm really excited to be part of this project and super excited for these communities of practice that we're about to launch. I see lots of names on the side. I see some that from Peace Corps, which is I'm an old Peace Corps volunteer myself and Peace Corps staff, so super excited to see all of that and all of the new people as well. I see someone else new to the COPs. So with that, and to welcome you and thank you for your participation and for all of your interest in the COPs. I know for sure they're going to be a dynamic and very interesting groups. And with that, I'm going to, I see somebody saying good night over there from Myanmar, so super excited to see we have representation from all over the world. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Hina, who will introduce the COPs and take us through our presentation today. So welcome and thanks again for joining. We are super excited for this launch. Over to you, Hina.
Thanks, Christy. So today we are really excited to introduce you to the refreshed Youth Power Learning Network. We will be sharing how you can find groups and other resources within the network that you need. And then we will also be sharing information on how you can stay connected with us during this process and beyond. And next, I'll be introducing the agenda. Can you go to the next slide, please? So the agenda for today, first we have a welcome and session overview, which we are doing right now. Then we will walk you through the features of the refreshed network, introduce you to the COPs, affinity groups, and small groups. And then finally, we will highlight what's next and where to find information. Next, let me introduce you to the network management team. Next slide, please. So these are people that will become very familiar faces to you as we continue on. First, I will introduce myself. My name is Hina Acharya, and I work at the Global Knowledge Initiative. I am a member of the YP2LE team working to refresh this learning network. I'm really excited for this session today and then to serve as a community manager going forward. My goal is to ensure that this network is engaging, inclusive, fun, and productive to all members. And with this, I'll pass it on to Jessie to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm really excited about all of you being here with us this morning, afternoon, or evening. My name is Jessie Bellama. I'm also going to be working as a communities manager, and Hina and I are going to be your primary point of contact for questions and information as we go forward. I also work with the Global Knowledge Initiative, and we've been really focused on bringing human-centered design and innovative approaches to making this network as successful as it can be for all of you. So I'm going to turn it over to Maria now. Maria, you're on mute.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Maria Brindelmeyer. I'm the Senior Knowledge Management Specialist with Youth Power Learning YP2, YouthPower2 Learning and Evaluation. Sorry, I'm still switching over. I was also with the YouthPower Learning project before and worked with the communities of practice. And it's really nice to see so many of you who have participated before, and also very happy to see many new members, and looking forward to working with all of you. And handing it over to Natasha.
Hello, everyone. We're excited to host you here today. I am Natasha Clark. I am the YP2LE Communications Manager, and we look forward to letting you know more about the exciting things going on with the Learning Network. Welcome.
Thanks, Natasha. So next slide, please. So here are the rules of engagement for today, just a few. First is please mute yourself. And then if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat box. We will try to answer as many questions as possible today, but we may not get to all the questions today. But rest assured that we will provide you the answers that you need after this session, and then also post some answers to the COP discussion groups. And then finally, please ping Natasha with any tech issues or questions that you might have. She is the tech lead for today. And Jessie, I'll pass it back to you to explain the journey that we've taken so far.
Great, thank you. So the network has been around for about 5 years, as those of you who've been around and part of COPs before are already aware. In the process of refreshing this network, we spent a lot of time reaching out and speaking with members about your experience. So we started with a community listening phase, did a number of interviews and surveys, and then moved into co-creation. So we spoke with USAID about their vision, and then we also hosted 4 sessions with members from around the world to understand what people really liked, what worked well, what they'd love to see improved, and how we could develop some guiding principles for grounding the design of the network in the wants and needs and contributions that all you as members have to offer. So once we did that, we developed a synthesized model, tested it with a number of stakeholders, validated it, and here we are presenting it with you today. So next slide. So the principles that came out of our conversation with members, these are the guiding principles. We really see them as the North Star for the network, and we'll continue to make sure that we stay grounded in these principles as we move forward. So first, fostering meaningful connection, creating space and opportunity for you as members to connect with one another. Mapping the network of engagement, so really being clear in outlining how, when, and where you can participate to meet the needs that you're looking for in this network. Third, creating and curating practical resources. So making sure that what gets developed is what you need and what you're focused on. Number 4, weaving inclusion into the fabric of the network. We really heard a lot about wanting to create this inclusive network, in particular, how we engage and uplift and create space for leadership and opportunity for people in the global South, for youth, and creating space for multiple languages. Number 5, ensuring member agency and agility. So creating a structure of this network that allows people to engage in the ways they want and to really make sure that this network is member driven. And finally, empowering champions to facilitate. So champions are not just the formal leadership. Champions are people who are enthusiastic and excited about championing this effort and championing positive youth development. So we want to create the space for people to be able to take on leadership roles. And so we want to be held to these principles, and we'd like you to help us uphold these principles and reflect them yourselves in the network. So based on these principles and listening to you, we've developed 4 goals for the network and then aligning channels to support this. So first goal is to collect and disseminate positive youth development resources. And so the COPs will be a great channel for this. We have online discussion groups that will be connected to the COPs, as well as to other groups and the network-wide platforms that exist. Second is customize or develop new PYD resources. So one of the new kind of newly structured features of the network is small groups. And this will be a space where you can develop new resources as you need, those that respond to a gap in the field that you've identified or an area where you see something that's needed. Third, engage with others in applied learning. So again, we'll have small groups and you can create them to learn more. And the CoPs are larger, so creating the space where you can have smaller, more in-depth dialogue and conversation with others about a specific topic of interest. And fourth, building connections and relationships for applied learning and for collaboration. And so affinity groups are a new feature of the network this time around. They will cut across the CoPs and will be informal spaces to connect with other members who are in the same region or country or operating in the same language. And these will be entirely member driven. So this is just an overall visual of the network structure. So you can see there's sort of a green box that represents the network-wide platform. So all of the pieces and groups exist within this structure, and the overall network manager is Maria. So she's going to be helping pull all these pieces together and be a contact for that. In the center, you see the blue circle. That essentially represents the youthpower.org website and also the YouthLead website. This is kind of the engine of the network where you'll be able to find and connect with all of the resources. The yellow circle represents the affinity groups. The black square represents the CoPs, and the little red squares are the small groups. These small groups can be formed off of affinity groups as well, and they can be they can exist separately from another group, and we'll go into more detail about that. Management structure, the community managers, myself and Hina, we are going to be the glue connecting between these different groups to ensure cross-pollination and closely with Maria to make sure that this information transfers between the groups and the broader platform. So the features and benefits of this refreshed design, just to sort of summarize, reflecting the principles and the overall structure that we just shared with you. We really wanted to design platforms and groups that align with members' interests, so you have an opportunity to opt in where it makes the most sense for you. And create space for more member-driven and self-directed work. So you are going to be able to tell us what it is that's interesting to you and guide us, and we will be able to help you set up the structures, whether it's an affinity group or a small group, to reflect what you're looking for. This new structure, again, we're hoping to be able to increase cross-pollination and learning between and across the groups and across the platform as a whole. And through creating smaller group structures and a more flexible group number of groups that you'll be able to find spaces to get to know each other better. We also, as we mentioned, one of our key design principles is increasing diverse participation and engagement at all levels. And one of the key features of this is that the CoPs in particular will have formal youth advisors as part of their leadership structure. So I'm going to turn over to Maria to kick us off into talking a little bit more about the communities of practice themselves. You're on mute, Maria.
I always have two buttons where I unmute myself. So as many of you know, we had 4 communities of practice previously for gender, youth engagement, cross-sectoral skills, and youth in peace and security. And based on the feedback during the listening process and the co-creation, we are launching 3 communities of practice to get started. And we will have up to 5 throughout the year. So there will be 2 more that will be created, and Hina and Jesse will take us through each of them. So each of the communities of practice will have 2 champions, and we will make sure for the new COPs that one of the co-champions is a youth, and the senior champion will be staffed by one of the YP2LE consortium partners. We will also organize at least quarterly meetings for these groups and ensure that there is additional connectivity between those meetings so that you have an opportunity to work with the other members more closely, and also you'll have an opportunity to propose the topics for those meetings. We have moved, and I think that's probably one of the biggest changes from a process perspective. We have moved the communities of practice onto the youthpower.org platform instead of a listserv. So many of you commented that you didn't like the fact that the listservs made it really impossible to get to know who is a member in the group. And so by moving it to youthpower.org, every member will have a profile, and we'll talk at the end of this presentation on how you join if you haven't already joined. So every member will have a profile, and so you'll have the opportunity to get to know who is in the group and also create your own profile and your description, and then you can reach out directly to individual members. It's also easier by moving it to the youthpower.org platform to see previous postings, you know, what have other people posted before, and you'll get notifications about any new postings on in the discussion group, and you can change the frequency of those notifications. So you will get those updates like you did before in the listserv, but you will then be able to go into the website and write your comments. The discussion groups also have an option to connect with a WhatsApp group. We don't think that the WhatsApp group are necessarily the best solution for these larger groups because of limitations within WhatsApp and also just how it works. It's not manageable. But smaller groups might want to take advantage of that opportunity. And then Jessie and Hina will organize cross-COP webinars and invite all the members to those events. So you'll hear more about that at the end of the presentation today. And then all communities of practice will get the team's support with regard to discussion groups on the website and other technology support. And then the champions will also have the benefit of having calls with each other, learning from each other, and so we can also make sure that, you know, the best practices that we learn on one of the communities of practice can also be transferred to the other ones. So to have that learning from each other and make the best from each of the different groups. So with that, let me hand it over to Hina, who will go into more detail.
Great. Thank you, Maria. We are launching one brand new COP and then relaunching 2 existing COPs. And one of the features that I'm most excited about is the COP leadership structure. So like Maria said, there will be one subject matter expert, COP champion, and then one youth advisor for each COP, serving as the leads. And this was in response to direct member feedback who felt that the network needed more opportunities for youth to lead. So this is a really exciting change. The first COP, the new COP, is the Business, Entrepreneurship, and Private Sector Engagement COP. It's meant for practitioners who are working with youth entrepreneurs to share best practices with each other and then learn from one another. And then it's also a space for youth themselves who want to build entrepreneurship skills and learn how to engage with private sector. Initially, it's open to all sectors, and then first it'll be focused on agriculture, but as the COP grows and we get more members, we will add additional topics based on what the members want. And then the 2 existing COPs that we're relaunching are youth engagement and gender. And we are relaunching these 2 as a result of member feedback. Members felt like these 2 COPs were great and they got a lot out of them. So first is youth engagement, which is focused on meaningful youth engagement and youth programming, and then gender, which is focused on gender transformative programming. We're in the process of hiring for both COP leadership roles, And you will see these purposes refined once we hire and get insights from the COP leads. And so next slide, please. So you might be wondering how you join a COP, and you will sign up on youthpower.org and make a profile if you don't already have one. Each COP will have a kickoff event, and each COP kickoff event will be staggered in multiple weeks so that those who want to join more than one COP are able to attend all the kickoff sessions. And we'll send you more information about the dates soon. The first session of all the COPs will be really meaningful because members will be able to jump right in and contribute to developing the COP charter and then also shaping up the COP learning agenda. And Jessie, I'll hand it back over to you to talk about affinity groups now.
Great. I also wanted to share that the discussion groups for these COPs are already on the YouthPower website. So you can go there and go ahead and register with the COP discussion group, and that's how you'll get all information leading up to the kickoff event. So for the affinity groups, these are really in response to what we heard from members. There was a real interest and desire to be able to connect with people who are in the same area, wanted to speak the same language, and be able to take tools and customize for your own environment and context. So this is entirely member driven, and we're really excited about this new feature. So the way this is going to work, you'll have a discussion group just like the COPs, and because it's member driven, we'll need a member to tell us what groups you want. What are the affinity groups you want to see? And so we're going to work with you to set that up. And then schedule and lead a kickoff just like the COPs, and you'll determine high-level goals, frequency of meetings, roles and responsibilities across members. We do see there being an affinity group lead, but because this is more of an informal group, we can also work with you on how to distribute roles and responsibilities and work closely with you so that the burden of managing a group doesn't fall on one person's shoulders. You also will have the opportunity to form small groups if you want to dive deeper into a particular piece of learning, or if you want to develop a tool or customize a tool for your particular region or language. Next slide, please. So how to start an affinity group. If you already know one that you're interested in, email info@youthpower.org. Hina and I will be looking at that as the communities manager. We'll look over the request, create a discussion group, as I mentioned, on the events page, and then we'll put out an announcement. And this is really about popular interest. So once there's an announcement out, you'll have the discussion group will be up for 2 weeks. And if 15 individuals are interested and join, then we will kick off and launch the affinity group. If less than 15 individuals join, we're going to close that group down. That doesn't mean it's forever. It may mean that we come back to it and try again in another couple of months when more people have had a chance to settle into the network or express their interest. Okay, so that's affinity groups. The next feature of the network is small groups. And so as we've discussed, you can form small groups out of COPs, you can form them out of affinity groups, and you can form them just separately if there's something that comes up that you're interested in. And the goal of these small groups is, one, to either work together with other members, collaborate, to develop a new resource, or to respond to a gap in the positive youth development field. And then the second goal for a small group is to create space for deeper learning and engagement and conversation around a topic or tool. So for example, if there's a discussion around a tool in the gender COP that's really interesting to you, you want to spend more time diving into it and talking about it, then you can reach out and ask to create a small group to do that. So how do you create these small groups? Well, if you are connected to a COP or affinity group, you're going to speak to your lead. And if there's agreement that it makes sense, then there's a form. We have a form for small group, for proposals of small groups. And so the group lead, whether it's the COP champion, the youth advisor, or the affinity group lead, will reach out to Hina and I as the communities managers. And if there's agreement, we'll create a discussion group, same process. And because these are small groups, it's 5 individuals. If there are 5 people who are interested, then we can go ahead and work together to launch that group, set up the agenda, and move forward. So if you want to create a group that's not connected to a COP or affinity group, email us at info@youthpower.org. So that's kind of a summary of all the new features. We've got our COPs, our affinity groups, and our small groups. What we'd like to do now is spend a little bit of time just getting information from you about what stands out to you, what your ideas are. So we've created a Padlet, which might be new to some folks. If we can drop that link into the channel. And here are the questions we have. So if you can go to that link, and we're dropping it in the channel right now. So it's coming. These are the questions, and this is what you'll see. And so we've got the 3 COP topics. What would you be interested in? What do you want to see these COPs talk about? If you already have ideas about affinity groups that would be interesting to you, what groups would those look like? And if you already know or have ideas about what small groups would be interesting, please go ahead and drop those ideas as well. So we're going to give you a couple of minutes to just write in some ideas here. And then we're going to start trying to address some of your questions. So I'm going to go silent for about 2 minutes and then give you, and then we'll start answering some questions. This Padlet will stay open throughout this presentation, and it will stay open beyond it. So as you have new ideas, please feel free to add. So please continue typing and sharing your ideas. And while you're doing that, Maria is going to let me know what questions have come through in the chat so that we can start answering some of the questions you've shared.
Yes, let me start with one of the questions here, which said, can you share how many people from the network were engaged in developing these new goals? It would be great to know like the number from the network and the global distribution.
Sure. So we reached out, and there's a slide at the beginning of the presentation, which you will share out after this as well, where we talked about the process we went through. We reached out, interviewed about 30 individuals across the network. So it's a small sample. We also reached out with surveys to the network as a whole and received, I think, a little over 100 responses to that. And then we reached back out to folks for the co-creation sessions that we did. So we had about 60 people involved in that co-creation process. So, and we worked to get a good range of people across the Global South, across age ranges, including youth and the Youth Lead program, and try to get a good representation of individuals so that we could get a good perspective.
Great, thank you, Jessie. There have been several questions that are somewhat related. So one of them was, I've never been a member of the COP. By joining the webinar today, does that already qualify me to be a new member? And then related to that, how can I join my desired COP? So you talked a little bit about that, but it might be good to just go through that process again.
Sure. So joining the COPs, being part of this webinar is the first step. So we're really happy you're here. Thank you for joining. So join the COPs, go to the youthpower.org website. You'll find the discussion group page, and the COP discussion groups have already been formed. And the way to find out about the upcoming kickoff and the discussion and conversation will be to register with those COP discussion groups. I think that's the main piece there. And if you want to be in a leadership role of the COPs, so the champions, we are reaching out to implementing partners first, and we are prioritizing identifying individuals who are from the Global South. The youth advisors, we are seeking expressions of interest for that. So if you are interested in serving as a youth advisor, we are going to work with the champions once we get them on board to bring in the youth advisors. So an expression of interest can come through the info@youthpower.org email address.
Great, thank you. And yes, so just type in the title Youth COP champion, and then we will redirect it. We will then send out information about how exactly to apply to all the interested parties. Another question is, can a member join all the communities of practice if interested in all of them?
Absolutely. And that's why we are going to stagger the kickoffs to make sure that if you're interested in more than one, you won't be overwhelmed by too many activities in one time frame. So we're going to talk a little bit more in a couple of minutes about how to find more information and stay connected. But I think we have time for one or two more questions.
Leslie, one of the questions asks, how does one connect with members from their country? Do you want to answer that one? I think that's a great question.
That's going to be through the affinity groups. So you can go and look through members on the website, the youthpower.org website. Once you register, you will be able to see who the other members are. So you can search to find people who are in your region or country. And then to be able to connect and have conversation with individuals. Once an affinity group, if there's an affinity group that you're interested in, please propose it. And once those groups are formed, you'll be able to connect with people from your region also through the discussion group.
Yes, and so the, one second, I'm just typing those instructions, which, so you will also see when you go to youthpower.org that there is a list of the members. When you click on the drop down for the communities, you will see that you will be able to see all the members, and then you can filter them by geography. And so that's a good way to just quickly find out even who is on the network overall. And then you can go into the discussion groups to find more people. So one question I'll jump in to answer that one is the difference between Youth Power and Youth Lead. So that's a really great question. So the overall program is called YouthPower Learning and Evaluation, or YP2LE. And as part of that program, we're managing two websites. One is youthpower.org and the other one is youthlead.org. Youthlead.org was primarily created for young change makers. YouthPower.org is for the broader network and was initially aiming particularly at implementers of youth programs, researchers, but also youth and especially also youth leaders. So the communities of practice, the 4 or the 3 to 5 that we're launching now, will be hosted on the youthpower.org platform. And as somebody asked, you know, if you are already registered, for example, on youthlead.org, you'll be able to use the same login information to get into youthpower.org. You may just want to, you may need to add 1 or 2 pieces of information, but you can join both platforms, yes. And you do not have to join both platforms. YouthPower.org is the platform for these new communities of practice. So if you only want to join the communities of practice, and if you're not a youth, then just join youthpower.org. If you're a young change maker, you may also want to join youthlead.org.
I think we can take one more question and then we can move on to.
So one question is about, we will answer all of them in a Q&A kind of document. And so one of the questions is it mandatory for applying as a COP youth advisor to previously have engaged in any youth lead or youth power initiatives?
The answer there is no. You don't have to have been a part of Youth Lead or YouthPower.org before. It's helpful because it will help you understand how things have worked, but no, that's not necessary. What we're looking for youth advisors is your area of interest and passion aligns with the COP, and that you can show how you have organized groups and individuals into a network or organization before, so we can understand your experience and capabilities.
Yes, and to add also, so for everybody who is expressing interest, you don't have to send your resume with your expression of interest yet, because we will send out separate instructions for the formal application. So at the moment, just express your interest and then we will send out more detailed instructions. So with that, I think we are ready to move on to the next part of the session.
And we will answer your questions. Have no fear. Hina, go ahead.
Here are some events to look forward to. So first, we have a 3-part systems mapping workshop series starting in October for those who are interested in learning about systems mapping and also systems methods in general to think through systemic issues that affect youth. And then there will also be a COVID panel in November where we will talk about adapting during COVID and then also planning for a post-COVID world. You will hear from youth practitioners, youth leaders, and then also other members of the PYD community. And you can sign up for both of these events at youthpower.org. Next slide, please. And here are the instructions on how to sign up for youthpower.org and for a profile. And then the next slide will show you how to sign up for a COP. And these slides will be emailed to you as a reference guide, and then they'll also be available on youthpower.org. So the instructions will be readily available to you. Next slide. And then here are the instructions on how to join the COPs that you're most interested in, and you'll have access to this after the presentation. Next slide, please. And here are some ways to stay up to date on network activities. And the links are in this presentation, so you can just click on the links once you get the presentation. So first, we have youthpower.org events, where you can stay up to date on the events that are going on in the network. And then we also have a quarterly newsletter for Youth Power. And if you're a young person or a young change maker, then please sign up on youthlead.org to connect to other youth and young change makers, and then also talk to people on the discussion groups. And then Youth Lead also has separate events aimed at young change makers. And then similarly, there's also a Youth Lead newsletter that you can sign up for. If you have any more questions, please post your questions on either the COP discussion groups after you've joined, or you can also email us at youthpower.org. And like I said before, we will be sending you an email with an updated presentation with all of the links that you'll need. And then in addition to that, there will also be a really short survey that you can provide feedback on both today's presentation and then also your thoughts on the Refreshed network. And we will be looking really, really closely at that survey to make sure that your wants and needs are included in the network as we move forward. And before we end, we had a really fun idea. This is the first time that this community is getting together for this iteration of the network. So if everyone can turn on their cameras and smile, we would love to take a group photo and just show how big and exciting our community is. And Natasha will be taking that screenshot. So if you don't mind, please turn on your camera. And Natasha, do you want to instruct us on when to smile? I think you're muted.
Hello, everybody. So get ready to say cheese. 1, 2, 3.
And stay, we may need to take more than one picture.
And we'll do another one.
You got all the screens. We got 5 screens full of everybody who's here, which is wonderful.
We're on screen number 2. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
And we are going to share these screenshots out with everyone too, so you can see the full scope and beauty of this network that we're pulling together.
Yeah, bear with me for one moment. I'm just gonna save these. Okay, and we'll do another one.
Okay.
I bet you guys didn't know you were having a photo shoot this morning. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
All right. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for being here this morning, and we look forward to getting to know you through the YouthPower Learning Network. I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks again.
Oh, thank you.
And great to see everyone.
Yes.
And we will be sending out information to you very soon. So please feel free to reach out with questions and let us know your feedback.